Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So today I'm going to be doing my dystopian reads and recommendations. Basically, I was planning on doing 5 dystopian books that I've read and loved, and then 5 that I really want to read. But I only actually could think of 3 books that I've read, dystopian wise, that I've really loved. So I'm going to do 3 of those and then 7 books that I really want to read, just to make it a good old round 10. So let's get started. So the first one that I've read and loved is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Now pretty much everybody knows what this is. This follows a place where there are 12 districts, and from each district, and each year 2 children from each district are put forward for the Hunger Games, which is basically a battle to the death between these 24 children, all between the ages of 12 and 18. Who have to, like I say, fight to the death, and the last one standing is the winner of the Hunger Games. This is really great. I love Katniss Everdeen. She's the main character in this. She's really great. She's a really strong and really brave woman, and she almost doesn't need a guy to kind of tell her what to do or to do it for her. She's very much independent and strong and knows where she's going and what she's doing, and I really like that about her. The only thing for me is I didn't like the love interest in this because I wanted the other one. I'm not going to tell you who it is because it's a spoiler, but I don't like who she ends up with in the end of these 3 books. This is a trilogy, by the way. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's a great dystopian, and this was probably the first dystopian I read, so it's a great start, and I can't wait to read the next 2 books because I haven't actually read the second and third. I've only ever seen the film, so it's going to be interesting. The second dystopian book that I have read and loved was Cinder by Marissa Meyer, which is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles series. I believe there's 4 now, Cinder is basically about a cyborg named Cinder who essentially is Cinderella. It's a retelling of Cinderella, and basically Cinder has to interact with the prince, and it all goes from there. It's really great. I love it. I haven't read the rest of the series. I actually got Scarlet in my recent library haul, which I'll try and link below. But I really enjoyed the first one, so I really want to continue on. I love all the characters. There's the kind of evil stepmom character, Aiko. There's a tiny little robot called Aiko, who is probably my favourite, although she's not really a direct character from the Cinderella, although I kind of think that she's probably like the mice in Cinderella, like Gus and what's the other one called? Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, so I really loved that, and that's a great one to read, especially it's quite a good starting place as well. I don't actually have a copy of that in the minute because I lent it to my sister. And then the third and final one that I've actually read is Under the Never Sky by Veronica Rossi, and I read that, I want to say it was earlier this year, and I got this from the library and I really liked it. This follows our main character who, it's a world where basically they all live in these pods where basically nobody gets sick, and it can transport you to different places, like in your mind, and sort of seeing things. You can do pretty much anything you want to. The main character in this has to go outside of the pod because her mother has gone missing, and it's all about her meeting somebody who lives outside of the pods, and it's a really great story. The ending wasn't brilliant, I didn't think, but I liked the book in general. I think there's a second book as well, so that's something to look forward to. And yeah, it was a really great dystopian, and I liked it. So then moving on to the books that I really want to read that I haven't got around to yet, and the first one is Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. I always call it The Uglies, but it's not. And I love the fact that on the top it literally says before the Hunger Games there was Uglies, because this actually came first. Everybody always talks about the Hunger Games as kind of the pinnacle of dystopian novels, but actually this one was first. This follows a world where when you turn 16 you become a pretty, and up until then you are an ugly. And Tally, our main character, is just about to turn 16 and she can't wait until that happens. However, then her best friend does something that if she doesn't tell people what happened, she will not be allowed to become a pretty, and then she just has to decide whether it's worth it getting her friend in trouble, or whether she should just not not become a pretty. So it sounds interesting. I think there's probably more to it than the brief synopsis that I just gave, but that's all I know about it at the moment. But I'm very excited to read it, and I love this cover as well. The colour on it is amazing, and I believe this is 1 in 3. Yeah, so there's pretties and then specials are the other 2. So then I have another very cult classic, and that is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This book is another one that pretty much everyone has read. I have not read it yet, and I need to. I've not even watched the films, so it's something I definitely need to look into. Basically, Divergent is about a world where there are factions, and your faction is your family, and I think there are 4 of them. I don't know. But basically the main character in this, Triss, she is going through the kind of trials to get into one of these factions, and I don't know what happens, but she does something that obviously makes this an interesting book. I'm excited. I love dystopian, and this could be a good one. Next up is The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, I believe, and I don't actually have a copy of this yet, but I really, really want to get it. This was, annoyingly, this book was on my reading list in my, I think it was my English A-levels, like the summer before. We were given a list and we had to read a certain number of them, and I didn't read that one. I read others, and I really wish I'd read it because I feel like I really would have enjoyed it then. I'm really, really wanting to read it now. This follows a world where I believe certain women are basically slaves, kind of, and their sort of job is to be sex objects and then to give birth. I think it's to do with that. Yeah, basically they have to give birth. It's part of their, what they have to do. It's part of their kind of the place that they live, and it's about that. I think this has just come out. There's a new TV series that's got Alexis Bledel from Gilmore Girls in it, which I'm excited about. But I really want to read the book first, so I need to get my hands on a copy. Then I have quite a popular one, but I've heard good things and bad things, mostly bad things, I'll be honest. But it is The Maze Runner by James Dashner. This sounds really intriguing. Lots of people have very differing opinions on this. Basically, this is about a boy named Thomas, who, that's the only thing he can remember about himself, is that his name is Thomas. And he is shows up at this lift that takes him out to this maze, and then it's about surviving from there, I think. I don't know much about this. Like I say, I've heard a lot about it. I think it's a trilogy, or it could be 4 books, I can't remember. But either way, this sounds like a fascinating read. And again, it's one of those popular ones that I feel like I really need to get to. I've heard the films are okay. They're better than the books apparently, but I would like to make my own opinion on that. The next one is Unwind by Neil Shusterman, which I don't know a whole lot about. Again, I don't have a copy of this book yet, but this follows a world where basically when you have a baby, as far as I'm aware, at a certain age, you can, as the baby's parents, you can decide whether you want to let the baby live or whether you want to unwind the baby, which basically means using its organs to help other people and to give to other people. I think that's kind of how it goes. This sounds really dark and twisted, but really interesting. I'm kind of intrigued to see where it's going to go, because that sounds really, really awful. So I'm hoping that it's kind of what I'm expecting it to be. I think it'll be great. It kind of sounds like something Stephen King would write, I'll be honest, so hopefully Neil Shusterman does it justice. Then I have 1984 by George Orwell, which I talked about in my summer TBR recently. I don't really know a lot about this. I'll say that about most of these because I don't really like to go into dystopian books knowing too much about the world. But basically this is about a world where people are monitored and like watched by a camera about everything they do. Everything is kind of like ordered and told to them how they're supposed to live. This is kind of the inspiration behind the TV show Big Brother, which has also just started, and I'm interested. I think I read something called, no, I watched a film called V for Vendetta with my boyfriend, and I feel like this sounds sort of similar, or it has a lot of the similar sort of points to it, so it'll be interesting to see how this works, and yeah, I'm excited. And then talking about Stephen King, the final book is actually a book called Cell by Stephen King. Now I want to read all of Stephen King's books, but this one is especially exciting to me because it is a dystopian. As far as I'm aware, this book follows my worst nightmare, which is basically that mobile phones essentially spread a virus to all the humans by essentially wiping their brains. And so it basically turns everybody into a zombie, and it's like the zombie apocalypse. I don't know anything else about it. Again, I don't like to know much about dystopian books before I go into them, but I've heard that this is one of Stephen King's goriest books, and it's definitely interesting and different to what I've read of his so far, so I'm excited to find out how I feel about that. So that is my dystopian reads and recommendations video. I would love it if you would let me know down below any more recommendations that you've got, or let me know which one of these you think I should read first. I love dystopia. I think that, you know, it's a great genre, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I shall see you next time. Bye guys.